20 years ago, I stumbled into my first software developer job. And I learned a few things in that time. And I want to give you 5 things that I think you need to do to have a successful software development career. The first thing, you have to understand the business goals. A lot of times as software developers, maybe you join because you like the puzzle. Maybe you join because you love writing software. Maybe you join because you want the money. Whatever reason you joined, if you don't understand why they're asking you to build something, or more importantly, what is the problem that they're trying to solve, then you may write exactly the piece of software that they ask for, and it's useless. I had an experience with this way back when I was working for a company. We needed this piece of software to do this specific process that they had. After months of meetings back and forth, going over requirements, going demos, doing testing, at the end of that several months, they came back and said, you know what, I think we're just going to keep using our Excel spreadsheets. It was quite irritating. But the problem was, I hadn't understood what the problem they were trying to solve was. I built exactly what they asked for. The problem was they didn't know what they actually wanted or needed. And most stakeholders, you will find, don't actually know what they want or need. A lot of my development, I've been a full stack developer. A lot of times I've been the business analyst, the developer, the tester, the DBA, the back end, every part of it I've had to do. And so I've had to learn how to talk to stakeholders and find out what is the problem you're trying to solve. So now when they come to me and they say, hey, can we add this button here? And I think, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. What do you want this button to do? What's the problem that you're trying to resolve from this? If I know what the problem is, then I can steer them to a solution that won't require me rewriting that same solution a month down the road when they realize, oh, it wasn't actually what we needed. Now you can take the approach of, I'm just the developer, I write what you tell me to write. And that will work up until a certain extent, except that if it's another department, if it's a client, if you continually write things that aren't useful to them, eventually they'll stop asking you to write things and they'll start saying, you know, development is not really an asset, it's really more of a hindrance, they just cost us money. Is that a fair assessment? No, but that is how the real world works. Number 2, be reliable. And this seems obvious, but a lot of times when developers think I need to be reliable, they think I need to work 60 hours a week. And generally what that ends up is being burnt out, trying to work on the weekends, trying to work every night. Killing yourself for a job is not being reliable. There are times as a deadline approaches, as something needs to get out, there are times when putting that extra effort in is worth it. But every day, every week, every month is not that time. What I mean by be reliable is be the person that if they give you something, they know that you will get it done. And if you need more time, you'll go to them and tell them you need more time. But they know that they don't have to keep checking on you. They don't have to worry about, is this person going to do what I asked them to do? A lot of developers also get being irreplaceable and being indispensable confused. Let me explain. Irreplaceable. A lot of developers try to make themselves into the only known point of knowledge for something because they don't want anybody to replace them. The problem with that is that makes it so you can never leave that project that you're working on. You think, I'm securing my place, but what you're really doing is pouring cement onto yourself so that you can never leave. You want to be indispensable. And that just goes back to being reliable so that if you are given a task, you will get it done. And so share your knowledge, make sure other people know, because that's also part of it. Like, if you make yourself so you are the only person who knows that, you end up becoming a liability more than you are an asset. Number 3, and this one might seem obvious, but it's always be learning. And a lot of times, as developers, we are asked to do something that might be beyond the scope of what our job title is. When I got hired onto a certain job and they said, hey, we want to build a mobile application, and I could have said, look, I got a whole website to worry about. I've never done mobile. I've never done anything like that. I have too much. That's beyond my job description. Instead, the way I always looked at opportunities like that, well, as opportunities, I look at it like you are going to pay me to learn a new skill. I had never done mobile apps. And when I mean mobile apps, I mean they wanted an iPhone application, they wanted an Android application. I'd never written in Java before, and I'd never written in Objective-C before, and this was back before Swift. But over the next month, I dove in and I learned how to do those things, and a month later, we had an iPhone app and we had an Android app. That was now a new skill that I could put on my resume. No longer am I just C# or database or PHP or whatever else I'd done in the past. Now I can add to that mobile application development, so that if there's ever times where the economy is tight or I need to pivot and adjust to a new field, I have all of these other skills that I can pull on. Every time you're asked to do something you've never done before, look at that as an opportunity to be paid to learn something new. Number 4, don't burn bridges. I've been working in IT for more than 20 years. I started doing tech support, and do you know that over 20 years later, I still know and run into people that I did tech support with back in 2001. The IT field is very small within a city. Yeah, you could move, but within your city, you are going to run into those people again. And if a company treats you badly and you burn them on the way out, yeah, it might feel good to get back at that company, but what you've also done is you've burned every developer that you left behind. I knew somebody that had some access codes, and he was the only one who had them. And he put in his notice, and he knew he was the only one who had them. And he waited to see if they would ask him for the access codes. And when his final day came, he deleted those access codes. And a phone call came in about a week later, and they were like, hey, do you have these access codes? And he said, sorry, I don't work there anymore. I deleted all that. Was that feeling that you got from burning them enough to overcome how you have now made every person that you work with feel that has to now overcome? They don't see that as, oh yeah, he really stuck it to them. No, they see it as he screwed us. And you will run into those people again. Maybe a year, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. I've been developing for 20 years. I have run into people over and over again. And that brings us to number 5, which is a nice simple one. Don't be a jerk. They will remember. The same way I talked about don't burn bridges, be the person that they enjoy working with. Just treat people like people. Don't get into petty squabbles. Don't get into fights. Don't get into issues. Do your work. Be a good employee. They will remember. Only one developer job, in fact, only one IT job did I not get a referral for. Only once did I go out and apply for a position that I had no recommendation for. Even my last job that I'm working right now, I've known this recruiter for over 10 years. He would call me every 6 months to see how work was going. Am I looking for a position? What's going on? And I've talked to him over those years. I never treated him badly. I always talked to him. In fact, we got into conversations about all kinds of stuff. I would ask him, how the market is. I would get information from him, but I treated him nicely. And when it came time for me to find a new job, he was the one call that I made. He had 2 open positions. One didn't look like a great fit. One looked like a good fit. I applied to the one position. I got hired at the first position I applied to. Because people remember me as somebody who is pleasant to work with, as somebody they like to be around. You can be the greatest programmer in the world, but if you're a jerk, you might not make it past the first round of interviews simply because they don't want you messing up their development environment. It's not enough to be a good programmer. You got to not be a jerk. All these things seem like really simple things, but if you spend any amount of time on Reddit, IT careers, or CS careers, or asking about stuff, you will see people stumbling on these over and over and over again. New languages, new skill sets, new frameworks, they can all be learned. But these soft skills are really is what's going to carry you further and further in your career. They're the ones that when you have a setback, they open a new door. They're the ones that will carry you through 20, 30, 40 years of software development. Hopefully this was helpful. If you like it, like it. Hey, maybe even subscribe. Talk to you later.